So now in similar way, like we need to provide the browser as well. So here we need to provide the name of the browser. So either we may provide the Chrome or as an Edge or the Firefox, etc. So the user can provide any browser name, and like based upon the respective input which the user has provided, the appropriate browser should initialize to the WebDriver. If the user says it's of an Edge, so like we should initialize the Edge driver to the WebDriver. If it is of an Chrome, so we should initialize the Chrome driver to the WebDriver. And how we are going to do in the sense, with the help of the concept called as an conditions. Okay, so you all aware, like we have learned the concept called as an conditions. So like with the help of the condition, I'm going to check whether the input is Edge or Chrome or Safari, etc. And based upon that, I'm going to initialize the WebDriver. So let's say I'm just adding the condition. So how we are going to check the condition in the sense, like we are going to load the key value. So in order to like read the key, like we should need a method called as an get property. I can say like prop dot get property, and we need to pass the key. So the key is nothing but we call the browser as key. So whenever I use this line called as an prop.get property, it will return the value, which is nothing but it will return the value which we have specified. And we are going to compare, we are going to do the conditional check what the value is. So which means like as it is of a string, I told whenever we are going to compare the string, like we should use the equal to method. I can say I'm going to check whether it is equals to Edge. If it is equal to Edge, I'm going to initialize the WebDriver with the Edge driver. Okay, so I'm just writing the code called as a WebDriver. So new of Edge driver. Else. So we are going to check another more condition. So whenever we are adding a multiple condition, so we should use the keyword called as an else if. So I'm going to read this like property prop dot. I'm just going to get the property value and I'm just passing the respective key. If it is of an Chrome, so dot equals to Chrome, I'm going to initialize the Chrome driver. Okay, but this web driver, like if we initialize inside any of the block, even it will act as a local variable. As we are going to use the web driver in various places, I'm just having this web driver as a global variable. I can say like web driver. Okay, I'm just initializing as an web driver and giving the variable name, and as of now this driver will have null knowledge. It won't have any knowledge because like this variable doesn't hold any value, and we are going to assign the value. So how we are going to assign in the value in the sense, rather than like initializing the web driver straight away inside the block, so I'm just initializing the value called as an driver is equal to H driver. So what happened now? So whenever the appropriate condition matches, so to this web driver, the corresponding knowledge will be injected. So if it is of an Edge, so the Edge knowledge will be injected. If it is of an Chrome, so like we will be injecting the Chrome knowledge. And in similar way, like if it is of an Safari, so let's say, so else if, or else like I can just copy paste the same line, I can provide over here. So if it is of an Safari, so we can say it is of an Safari driver. Suppose if the user throws like if a user inject a wrong input, let's say like in the place of a Edge, if we pass the input called as an apple, obviously right, it is not a browser name. So whenever the user pass invalid data, so we should handle the invalid data, which means like whenever the above condition is not satisfied, by default, So we should use the else block. And here I am not going to add any sysout statement stating that please enter the invalid browser. So whenever the user inject the invalid data, so we should fail the test case, right? We should fail the execution. We should stop the execution. So how we are going to stop the execution in the sense by throwing the exception. So like you have seen like multiple exceptions like if we are providing the invalid intents, it says invalid array intents out of the bound exception. If it is of an argument, it will throw the invalid argument exception. So we have seen this. So like here, whatever the input we are injecting, we call it as an argument. So which means like we are injecting the wrong input, which means like we need to throw the exception called as an invalid argument exception. So how we can throw the exception in the sense, with the help of the throw keyword, I'm voluntarily throwing the exception. Okay, so all the exception class will be available in the Selenium. So what is the exception class we are going to throw in the sense we are going to throw the invalid argument exception. So that is a class. So in order to use one class and other class, we should create an object. And how we are going to create an object in the sense with the help of the new keyword, I'm just throwing the exception called as an invalid argument exception, and under which I'm going to specify like please enter valid input. Okay, so I need to mention like please enter the valid input, or we can say please enter valid browser name. So whenever the above condition is not satisfied, then obviously the else part will execute and it will throw the exception called as an invalid argument exception. And post that once the browser is invoked, then with the help of the WebDriver, so we are going to pass the appropriate URL. And how we are going to pass the URL? So with the help of the properties class, so there is a method called as an get property. So where we are going to specify the key. So the key which we are going to use here is called as an environment. So I'm just copy pasting the respective key. And whatever the corresponding value is mapped to this particular key, it will return it up. So which means like inside the get method, the corresponding URL will be passed it up. So now, so we can trigger our scenarios in any of the web browser. So we can just based upon the input, either if we give the edge, the script will run in an edge. So the reason is like, so as the condition is satisfied, it will initialize the web driver and the driver will gain the knowledge of the edge driver. And in similar way, if the condition is Chrome, so here it will skip the if part and it will execute only the else if part, which means so the Chrome driver is initialized, the driver will have the knowledge of the Chrome and the same can be reused accordingly. Okay,